What's up, YouTube? Angry Jack up here, Rob Ricks, and today we're going to talk about Conspiracy 101, conspiracy theories, basically in a nutshell. There's a lot of folks that look at conspiracies and go, "Oh, that's a tinfoil hat wearing nut crazy fucking nut job," right? I have done some research on different terminologies and stuff like that, and a lot of this is going to be on my blog. I have a blog in addition to the YouTube videos, and those will be in the description down below for you to get a look at. This is going to be just a real quick overview of definitions, and on the blog there will actually be some embedded videos of things to kind of reinforce the concepts and the things we talk about. So right off the bat, what the fuck is the definition of a conspiracy theory? The definition is a belief that some covert but influential organization is responsible for a circumstance or event. Now, there's a lot of people talking about shadow governments, the Illuminati, the banking cartels, Satan, whatever, that is behind the scenes causing world problems. And, in every joke and every mockery or whatever else, there is always a little bit of truth. Do I believe that banking cartels are a huge influence in causing all kinds of situations in the world? Sure. Yeah, I do. Do I believe there is a shadow group called the Illuminati pulling the strings and the puppets and things of that nature? To a limited extent, I think there probably are some very influential people, bankers, that are responsible and definitely pulling lots of strings. What their objectives and agendas are, don't know. Could be opposing factions. I mean, not factions. Factions. Could be opposing factions. Could be lots of different groups all vying for world dominance. And they might be cock-blocking each other. There might be some that have, the best interests of humanity at heart, and some that are like, fuck humanity. Who knows? That's a world that you and I are not privy to. We don't get to see that stuff. That's stuff behind the scenes. So yes, I do believe that there is something behind the scenes that happens on a daily basis. Now, you might ask, how can those things happen? Well, let's talk about terms of use while discussing things like conspiracies. Well, we've got things like false flag events. Okay, false flag events are basically false flag or black flag describe covert operations designed to deceive in such a way operations appear as though they are being carried out by entities, groups, or nations other than the motherfuckers are actually doing it themselves. So it's kind of like, I want to go punch this motherfucker right here in the face, but you guys wouldn't like it if I did that shit, right? So I go take a shit on your bed and then, put some evidence up that said that motherfucker did it. Now you and everybody else is down for me to go punch this motherfucker in the face. That's a false flag, or a false deuce in this example. Now you might be saying, dude, that shit doesn't happen. But if you look throughout history, history is full of examples of false flags. Look on the blog and you'll see them. I'm not going to go through it all here in the video because it's just too fucking time consuming, and the rabbit hole goes deep. So if I piqued your interest on false flags, you could Google search false flags. There are fucking literally millions of probably videos and articles and shit across the web on that. Let's see. Let's continue, shall we? Those are some examples that I put on the blog. Here's one I love. Crisis actors. Crisis actors are professional actors apparently deployed by government agencies and or the mainstream media to delude the public with portrayals of trauma and suffering, specifically to act as a victim or a witness in a staged event like a school shooting or a hoax terrorist attack. Now, having motherfuckers that get up and act and do all this other stuff to help push a narrative through is nothing new. I mean, that's, if you look at words like propaganda, it's like media convincing you to believe a certain agenda, propaganda, right? So on my blog, there are links to 3 examples of crisis actors that is going to piss you to fuck off. Let's talk a little bit about MK Ultra. Okay, Project MK Ultra, sometimes referred to as the CIA's mind control program, was the code name given to an illegal program of experiments on human subjects designed to, and undertaken by the United States Central Intelligence Agency. So I think there's a Mel Gibson movie called Conspiracy Theory. It's a fucking hoot. Watch that shit. Even though it's, they're like, oh, it's a fucking movie, there's shit in there that will make you go, haha, it's not too far off. Now let's talk about one of my favorites, PSYOP. A PSYOP is a military action designed to influence the perceptions and attitudes of individuals, groups, and foreign governments. A PSYOP basically is something that has been orchestrated to put your mind towards a certain goal. So, here's an example. We're seeing all of these shootings, and we're hearing people guns. That is a general PSYOP agenda. You hear it, you see it, bombarded. So eventually when they say, we think it's good to do this. Now, I don't think they're going to go for gun grab, but I think what they're going to do is they're going to put in some regulations for mental health and things of that nature that even the gun control, activists are going to say, you know what, that sounds good. But what they'll do, as most governments do, when they are creating the laws, they'll make it so ambiguous that if you have a fucking migraine, they'll say, hey, that's a mental issue, no, come take your fucking guns. Or they'll say something like, oh, your wife just gave birth to a baby. She has a condition called postpartum depression. Because she has depression now, we can't have any guns in the household because of safety considerations. We're going to temporarily take your guns and lose the paperwork and never give your fucking guns back. Anyway, that's just one example of some shit that could happen. Let's talk about the mainstream media. Mainstream media, I like to call the bought and paid for media, is owned by 6 massive corporations, which include Vivendi Universal, AOL Time Warner, Walt Disney Company, News Corporation, Viacom, and Bertelsmann. Bertelsmann. It's like Beetlejuice, right? Anyway, it sounded like that to me. Anyway. Now, those are some players in the conspiracy theory world that you just need to kind of keep in the back of your mind. Now, I'm going to introduce to you some signs that I look for whenever an event unfolds. I look for these things to see if it could be a potential conspiracy, right? Something fucked up, something weird, right? So number 1, was there a coinciding drill going on the same time as the event? In 9/11, they had multiple drills going on the same day. You had Vigilant Guardian, Vigilant Warrior, Northern Guardian, Northern Vigilance, and you had even some local ones that were going on, I think, at the Pentagon. And so when 9/11 was going down, a lot of the, planes that could have intercepted were saying, is this real life or is this drill? What the fuck's going on? Is this part of the drill? We don't know. So that confusion allowed for more time to go on, that allowed things to happen. And, I'm not going to necessarily touch on 9/11 in great detail other than to say my personal belief, me personally, and if you want to get into a conversation we can, but my personal belief is 9/11 was an inside job. As horrible as that sounds, and it hurts my soul to say it, that's my personal belief. Okay. Number 2, do witnesses seem too articulate in their speech? Now, I understand a lot of motherfuckers will get up there and see the news camera and they're like, well, the perpetrator tried to enter the facility and tried to accost the person there. And it will come across sounding like that when a motherfucker is really forcing himself to talk a certain way. What catches my attention is when a motherfucker, it could be down in the hood or some shit, and a person comes out and says, I was exacerbated by the fact that this perpetrator came in with such stealth and skill and was able to, circumvent the security and step inside. Now, granted, that might be the one motherfucker in the hood that has a fucking, a hyperbolical fucking vocabulary, and maybe he's a fucking linguistic teacher or some bullshit, but the chances of that start to diminish when other expert witnesses or whatever step in and they all talk like that. This shit just doesn't make sense, and it seems really rehearsed. That's another thing I look for. Number 3, and this is the telltale: odd emotions. Oh my god, how many times do I see these motherfuckers just lost their kid, right, or their mother? And I get it. If you are numb, if some shit happened and you're just like this, in a state of disbelief or shell shock, I can understand no tears. I could totally empathize, no fucking tears. But this, man, I'm blessed. We forgive him, we love him. God is a loving God, and yeah, it's good. Everything's good. Bullshit, man. That maybe one person, but again, when you see the same thing over and over and over, it is bullshit. It is utter bullshit, and it's just rehearsed and it's ridiculous. On the blog, you'll see some examples of that shit. Now, number 4. This one really chaps my ass because this is my biggest argument, and from a rational thinking point of view, if an incident goes down and there's a lot of people that die, show some fucking evidence. Show some fucking bloody scenes. Show something. Shit. We grew up, OJ. They show crime scene of fucking Nicole and them on the ground, bloody to shit. Even those were that leaked out. Columbine. We saw photos from that. This is the digital phone age. Fuck, motherfuckers pull their phone out while taking shits. And there's no photographs, no videos, nothing like that. No evidence to substantiate anything that they say. We see the what was that Paris shooting where the cop was on the ground and the guy supposedly shot him with an AK-47. No blood, no nothing. I saw the ground near the guy's head kind of pop up where the fucking wad must have hit the ground or something, but I didn't see a noodle pop. I didn't see the velocity of a bullet hitting, ricocheting, causing more debris to hit back in the head and cause massive blood. I didn't see any of that. Even the ISIS beheadings, you see a bloody scene after the fact, but I can tell you from all the testing and shit that I do with a myriad of different things, fishes included, the minute you start to cut, there's blood. If I cut a fish and there's blood coming and I grab a motherfucker like this and I do this, there should be some blood that's happening as the event. You should see the skin separating. You should see something, especially if you're forcefully holding a person back like this and doing this. It's bullshit. It's all propaganda. It's all fucking staged. It's all bullshit. Let's see. Number 5, lack of transparency. Let's talk about 9/11 just for a little bit. So the Pentagon is probably one of the most heavily surveyed locations on the planet. The only footage they revealed to us of the attack are a few blurry frames which show nothing but an explosion. That blows my mind, and I remember there's a lot of buildings around the perimeter, gas stations, things of that nature had cameras, and the feds went in and took all the footage. A little bit of transparency goes a long way. If you guys show us what actually happened of a plane crashing in, we'll be more inclined to believe it. But if you don't show us that, then you're forcing us conspiracy nuts to say, well, if they're not showing it to us, now we have to look at the wreckage, we have to look at the scene and start to piece it together and say, you know what, there's a wing that should have caused injury too, but there's none of that, there's no wreckage, what the fuck? So anyway, and finally, number 6 on these events. Killer kills himself, or there is a bewildered patsy left behind. I remember looking at Aurora, Colorado, that dude's like this. He just looked fucking bizarre, right? And the guy from the church shooting recently, you see him in a lot of photos looking defiant and stuff like this, but then you see him in court, he's like this. Yes. Yeah, it's not consistent, right? So I think the worst thing is, these guys like the Boston bombing kid. What would be really horrible is if all of these courts proceedings and everything else just turned out to be nothing but fabricated theater. that they feed little bits and pieces to us, and at the end of the day, they're like, okay, we're done, right? Um, there's no evidence. We have no evidence to show these things, all these things going on. Only thing we could take is what the magic box is telling us, and the same news outlets feed out into the internet. I always tell my kids, do your due diligence, do your own research, find the answers yourself. But there's too much dependence on the magic box to tell us everything. I mean, look at how easy it would be for me to convince you that there's an actual pandemic going on. So you could look at Walking Dead and look at the prosthetics and the makeup and all the stuff that goes into just a regular TV show, and the shit looks real as fuck, right? So let's just make it look like a real virulent, fucking horrible version of Ebola that is super contagious. And we show the footage of a reporter in there doing an interview with a doctor talking about it, and suddenly a patient stands up and fucking wigging out and shits everywhere and going crazy and pissing and shitting all over themselves, and it's all there in HD, and motherfuckers see it, and then the news says, oh my god, this is the most, contagious version of shit that's out there, period. It's affecting, 90% it comes in contact with a death total of, 90%. Okay, so that shit happens. Now, you're in your house, scared as fuck, putting up duct tape and plastic around your windows and shit, shutting yourself basically in, voluntarily doing martial law to keep yourself and your family safe, and then, these little vans show up and hit your neighbor's house, Conspiracy Rob. They take Conspiracy Rob's, hit his house, and suddenly they go in and they come out with body bags, and they tell you, yeah, this shit, was right next door to you. We need to check you too, and they check you and you're good. Okay, well now, you don't give a fuck that Rob just got carted out in a black fucking body bag. You're thinking to yourself, thank God it wasn't me and my family. But you believed everything that was on the TV. For all you know, it could have been a hit squad with silencers that went in, shot Conspiracy Rob, right? Loaded him and his fucking family up in bags and took him out of there because he was a conspiracy nut. He was spreading information that was counterproductive to whatever the agendas are. All I'm saying is, don't depend on all your information from the TV. Ask questions. Look at things from a rational, objective mind and say, is this in the realm of possibility? Are these actions natural? Is this how I would react in a situation? I remember 9/11 when the buildings fell. I remember looking at those buildings going, damn, those buildings, the way they're collapsing look familiar. And for about a year, it kept nagging me. It kept bugging the shit out of me. I'm like, why the fuck? This shit's weird. And then Building 7 went down, and I was like, wait a minute. It takes a while to rig up a building for a demolition. And supposedly it was burning, and they were able to pull it like that. Just logically, things didn't add up to me. And then as more and more people started undigging things, it started just to be more and more apparent to me, just from a logical point of view. Something was not right. So anyway, I just wanted to share this with you guys as we start to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole. Those of you who are brave, I will warn you, if you have never ventured into the conspiracy world, my advice to you is don't go. Because the minute you start scratching beneath the surface and you dig deeper and deeper and deeper, you realize we do live in a matrix. There are two realities. There's a reality that the mainstream media and the rest of the world want you to see. And then there's the real story. And that real story is fucking scary. I know quite a few people can handle it, no problem. But there are a few people that once they are exposed to it, they get super depressed and they get really sad. So if you are happy-go-lucky and you are really enjoying life right now, my advice to you is to stay plugged into the matrix. Do not take the blue pill. Don't take it. Those of you who have already taken the blue pill and enjoy rational conversation and discussion in regards to this stuff, okay, come along. We'll have fun. We'll talk about some things and we'll see what's what. All right? Okay, guys. If you like it, please subscribe. Tell all your friends. Please share. Share it far and wide. Let the world know the Angry Jackalope is here, motherfuckers. And be safe. Be good to each other. Until next time.